Your last name isn't yours. If you're Filipino, your last name is Garcia, Reyes, Santos, Cruz, Rodriguez, or one of 500 other Spanish surnames. You didn't choose it. Your parents didn't choose it. Your grandparents didn't choose it. In 1849, Spain handed your great-great-great-grandparents a list and said, pick one. They erased your real ancestral name, and you have no idea what it was. But here's the crazy part. They did this to Filipinos, but not to Mexicans. Why? Because Spain knew something about psychological control that we're only now understanding. You meet someone named Rodriguez from Manila and someone named Garcia from Mexico City. Both have Spanish last names. But here's the mind-bending question nobody asks. Why don't Mexicans have names like Batong Bakal or Magsaysay? Our goal on this video is to get 500 likes. Share your reaction in the comments and subscribe the channel, turn on bell notifications. For over 200 years, the Philippines was actually ruled from Mexico, not directly from Spain. The Manila Galleon sailed between Acapulco and Manila for centuries. Filipinos went to Mexico, Mexicans came to the Philippines. They intermarried, traded, lived together. Yet the naming pattern only went one direction. This isn't just a quirky historical footnote. This is one of history's greatest colonial mind games. And it reveals something dark and brilliant about how empires actually work. The obvious answer, that's actually wrong. The simple explanation, Spain colonized both places, so both got Spanish names. Case closed, right? Wrong. Because here's what that explanation misses. Mexico was colonized in 1521. The Philippines? Also starting in 1521. But Filipinos didn't get their Spanish surnames until 1849. That's 328 years later. A royal decree called the Clavería Decree forced every Filipino family to choose from a catalog of approved Spanish surnames. Meanwhile, in Mexico, the Spanish naming system took hold almost immediately through baptism and church records. But it was much more organic, much more mixed. Many indigenous Mexicans kept their Nahuatl or Maya names, or blended them with Spanish ones. So why the difference? Why did the Philippines need a government catalogue of names 300+ years after colonization began? Before we go further, let me tell you why I need you to do something. I spent 3 weeks researching this topic. I found Spanish colonial documents most Filipinos will never see. I cross-referenced census data from 1850. This isn't Wikipedia knowledge. If you want more deep-dive historical investigations like this, subscribe. Because I can't keep doing this level of research if nobody's watching. And hit that like button if you appreciate research-heavy content. The real colonial hierarchy. Here's the secret. For most of Spanish colonial history, the Philippines wasn't really controlled by Spain. It was controlled by Mexico. The Philippines was administered as part of the viceroyalty of New Spain, Mexico. The Spanish king never sent ships directly from Spain to Manila. It was too far, too expensive, too dangerous. Instead, everything went through Acapulco. Mexican soldiers, priests, administrators, and merchants ran the Philippines. The famous Manila Galleon. That was the Mexico-Philippines connection, not the Spain-Philippines connection. Silver from Mexican mines paid for everything in Manila. But here's where it gets interesting. When Mexicans came to the Philippines, they came as colonizers, as representatives of Spanish power. They were above Filipinos in the racial hierarchy. They weren't coming as equals who would share their culture bidirectionally. The colonial caste system looked like this. Peninsulares, born in Spain, top tier. Insulares, criollos, born in the colonies but of Spanish blood. Mestizos, mixed Spanish and indigenous Indios. Indigenous people, bottom tier. Mexicans arriving in the Philippines, even mestizos, were still higher on this ladder than native Filipinos. The power flowed one way. The 1849 decree, the control mechanism. So why 1849? Why did Spain suddenly care about Filipino names after 300 years? 3 words: control, taxation, surveillance. By the mid-1800s, the Spanish colonial government faced a problem. The Philippines had millions of people with confusing, overlapping naming systems. Many Filipinos used single names, or changed names throughout their lives, or shared names within communities. This made it nearly impossible to track who owed taxes, monitor potential rebels, control land ownership, enforce military conscription, keep census records. Governor General Narciso Clavería y Zaldúa created a brilliant solution, a catalogue of surnames called the Catálogo Alfabético de Apellidos. Every Filipino family had to pick a Spanish surname from this book. Different regions got different letters of the alphabet, which is why certain surnames cluster in certain provinces today. This wasn't about generosity or inclusion. This was a database, a tracking system, a colonial Excel spreadsheet made of human names. Suddenly, José Rizal's family wasn't just the family near the river. They were officially Rizal, trackable across generations, taxable, controllable. Why Mexico escaped? This Mexico never got this treatment for 2 reasons. First, timing. By 1821, Mexico won its independence. The Philippines remained a Spanish colony until 1898. Mexico broke free before Spain perfected its bureaucratic control systems. Second, demographics. Mexico had a massive concentrated indigenous population with established cities, kingdoms, and systems. The Spanish conquered, but had to negotiate, blend, adapt. Many Mexican indigenous names survived because they were too embedded to erase. The Philippines. Over 7,000 islands, hundreds of ethno-linguistic groups, many without unified writing systems. Easier to impose a catalogue, but here's the deeper point. Mexico's names were tools of conversion through the Catholic Church, while Filipino names were tools of administration through the colonial state. Mexican surnames spread through baptism, a religious act. Filipino surnames spread through bureaucratic decree, a governmental act. The reverse flow that never happened now. The killer question: why didn't Filipino culture flow back to Mexico? Thousands of Filipinos traveled to Mexico on the Manila Galleon. They settled in coastal towns. They married Mexican women. Filipino Mexicans existed, but the colonial power structure made cultural exchange asymmetrical. Filipinos arriving in Mexico were sailors, not administrators, laborers, not landowners, converts, not converters. They were absorbed into Mexican mestizo culture, not the other way around. Their descendants became Mexican, their Filipino names disappeared. This is the colonial mind game at its finest. Make the colonized adopt the colonizer's identity, but never let the colonizer adopt the colonized's identity, even when they live side by side. The legacy today. Today, millions of Filipinos carry Spanish surnames, Santos, Cruz, Reyes, Garcia, while having 0 Spanish ancestry. These names are ghosts of colonial paperwork, not family trees. And here's the irony. These Spanish names have become part of Filipino identity now. They're not seen as foreign anymore. Filipinos have made them their own, transformed them, owned them. But the fact that this naming only went one direction reveals the fundamental rule of colonialism. Culture flows downward through power structures, never upward. The colonized must learn the colonizer's language, adopt their names, follow their systems. But the colonizer never has to learn yours. That's not an accident, that's the design. So the next time you meet a Filipino with a Spanish last name, remember, that name isn't just a name. It's a catalog number, it's a tax record. It's a 328-year colonial experiment in control. And it worked so well, we forgot it ever happened.